In the shadows, where the monsters dwell, they rise up fierce, ringing like a bell. Grip on the block, got that hard-edged class. Gangsters rolling deep, we're kicking monster ass. With the bass, thumping, we're set to attack. Cap it up, blast it out, no turning back. We're the nightmares creeping, making our mark. In this gangster life, we ignite the spark. Monsters and gangsters, we're here to reign. With every blast, we're rocking the pain. Underneath the street lights, they lurk with pride. Every corner we turn, feel the monster vibe. Gats on the ready, in the moonlight they flash. When the beasts hit the scene, you know it's a smash. Roar of the engines, hear that sound. In this urban jungle, we're glory bound. We're the nightmares creeping, making our mark. In this gangster life, we ignite the spark. Monsters and gangsters, we're here to reign. With every blast, we're rocking the pain. So when the night falls, hear the call. We're monsters and mobsters standing tall. Standing tall.
Good morning, my little monsters, my little weirdo warriors in the chat. Good morning to everybody. And Eric, Mr. Fluffy Monster himself in the house. Got his headphones on and doing his thing. We are going to get into some specific stuff today, man. I mentioned it lightly last night. Last night was a crazy podcast, by the way, getting myself shut down 3 separate times, which means I'm hitting a nerve. So that's good. That's a good thing. Anyways, those of you that missed last night's podcast might want to go back and check it out. It was definitely interesting, to say the least. We're going to get into the disclaimer right now, and then we're going to get into the thick of things. We're going to talk about the deep in the Kentucky forest, the legend, urban legend, whatever you want to call it, of the Kentucky Whisper Man, otherwise known as the Whisper Monster, okay, and how that whole thing started, okay? And then we're going to get into Robert Johnson. Those of you that don't know who Robert Johnson is, he was a very, very famous blues, rhythm and blues guitarist back in the day, okay, who said he went to the Crossroads and made a deal with the devil to get his talents. So we're going to get into that whole subject too today, okay, and so much more. You know this routine, okay? We always go off the rails Saturdays and Sundays. So there's going to be a lot more topic discussion. So that being said, this channel may use some copyrighted material without specific authorization of the owner, but contends that it falls under the Fair Use, which is the Copyright Act of 1976. Which makes for the sole purposes of, hold on a second, of commentary, news reporting, teaching, scholarship, research, Section 107 of the Copyright Act of 1976, otherwise known as the Fair Use Act.
Do that next time, but listen to me. The Dollar General people said that we can only go use one coupon per visit.
I'm not worried about it.
Said. I said, she's like, if you use the same card, you can't. I said, cash.
Give me a second, folks.
EBT.
It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter.
And you got
Things are
more. I
changing,
said you got
Tracy.
one
We
more.
either change with it or we
I
don't.
said you got
So
more than one person buying, so it shouldn't be an issue. Anyway,
anyways, there is the copyright disclaimer for YouTube to see and Facebook. And all of our music and intro and outros are the channel's own, and we own full rights to it, copyright and everything to it. So there shouldn't be a problem with that, which is done through the Donna app, which is a pretty cool app actually, and the UCut app. Okay. So that being said, Tracy was just updating me on Dollar General's new policy with the whatever coupon they do on the Saturdays, the weekends thing. So, anyways, things are getting a lot worse here locally. So that being said, what the hell's changing, you know? So, anyways, the Kentucky Whisper Man. How many of you have heard of the Kentucky Whisper Man? Okay, now here's the thing. It's currently considered an urban legend. Okay, I haven't found really too much documentation to prove that this actual is a cryptid. So let's not classify it as a cryptid. Okay, I kind of toss it in the category as with Slender Man or Siren Head, if you know what I mean. It's possible that this is a remnant legend carried over from a serial killer that was said to whisper outside of people's windows late at night in Kentucky to lure them outside and then unalive them. Okay, so that's where I believe part of this legend came from. The other part of this legend, I believe, is a misconstrued um, compilation of different things. Okay, I do believe it's like the elementals that I told you all about a couple podcasts ago, a couple weeks ago, that stand next to the trees and are so tall and their legs look like tree trunks. Okay, and you could walk right past them and not even know that they're there because you would think that you're walking past a tree. Okay, this is the same entity that I talked about back then that we're talking about right now. Okay, it is an elemental. It is a of the Fey type of a realm, okay, of a being, okay, and it is very very closely associated with another Native American legend in the area, which is called Spearfinger. Spearfinger is said to influence the elementals around her, okay, and not really control them, but to misguide them, okay. So that being said, I think that it's a combination of a couple different things, but this is loosely what we are concluding it to look like, okay. And this is something that I described that if it was standing next to a tree, you would literally think you're walking past about a group of 3 trees together. Okay, literally. All it's got to do is put its arms up. Its hands, obviously, that it has, if you can call it hands, look like twigs coming off of a branch. So it could definitely disguise itself as a tree, and that's what this entity has been known to do. And yes, it is a supernatural being. Okay, not a cryptid, not a flesh and blood. Okay, at least not in this world. Okay, not in this realm. So, that being said, the accounts of it is that it literally whispers to people their name or says something to entice them to come out of their home or whatever their. Hold on one second. And of course, I got a phone call coming in right at this time. Well, guess what? You're getting hung up on.
So
Bye
I can
bye.
pick it up for a few minutes because I'm finding the most common information is about the same on it. And that's the Kentucky Whisper Man is a fictional character from Alec North's novel,
Yeah,
The Whisper
definitely.
Man. He is a
Exactly. And,
serial killer who lures victims. Yeah.
exactly. I really believe that this is on the same lines as any other
Yep.
urban legend like Siren Head or the Slender Man. I do believe that this is as a way that people draw upon their energy that they don't freaking know that they have, and they can literally manifest this shit. Okay, literally.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and if they don't realize that, they're going to start manifesting some shit that they don't want to manifest. That's going to unalive them
Mm-hmm.
permanently. Okay, and make their lives miserable. And we're talking in mass quantities. So this is why I say you have to mind your thoughts. You have to mind your words.
Nope, we lost William. As we're waiting on him to come back. So, the most common research says the Kentucky Whisper Man is a fictional character from Alec North's novel, The Whisper Man. He is a serial killer who lures victims, primarily young boys, by whispering outside their windows at night. The story is set in the town of Featherbank, which is haunted by the past crimes. Oh, he's starting to come back in. Good. Past crimes of the Whisper Man. A new string of disappearances resembling the Whisper Man's crimes occur, prompting a detective to revisit the old case and confront the possibility that the original killer may not have acted alone. He's almost back in here, folks. There you go.
They're crazy,
Yeah.
man. I'm telling you, man. They just want to shut me down, don't they? Anyways,
Mhm.
as I was saying before I got taken off the air, was that this is no more than an urban legend. Okay, what people are doing is they're
Yep. I think he froze up.
all
Yeah, he
right.
froze
Well, if
up.
this continues,
There
we're
you
going
are.
to have one hell of a problem today.
Mm-hmm.
This is getting ridiculous. This really is. Can't even talk for 10 minutes without having them try to shut me down. Anyways, there's really not much to say about this so-called being, okay? Other than the fact that it's fey related, it's supernatural, and it can be manifested through your imagination. Okay. So that being said, yeah, I think it has something to do with the solar flares today. I'm not sure, but either way, they're going to mess with us anyways. It doesn't matter if it's solar flares or whatnot. Especially after last night's show. But to continue with this, to me, it's no more than like the Slender Man or Siren Head as far as legends go. It has been possibly linked to the Pope monster, which is a goat type of a cryptid that has been spotted. But I've also pointed out that the Pope monster is also more supernatural than it is flesh and blood cryptid. Okay, because it's been known to appear and then disappear in a mist. Okay, to me that is strictly supernatural. That is not flesh and blood cryptid. Okay, if you can't put a bullet in it and make it bleed, it's not a cryptid. Okay, plain and simple, folks.
Mm-hmm.
It is supernatural. It is supernatural. So, same lines as with this. Okay, Fae are definitely supernatural. Marty and Joanne, good to see you. Bounty Hunter, good to see you. Um, so I wanted to put this to rest before it got out of hand on the internet, and I got a funny feeling it's gonna skyrocket because people are gonna pick it up and go, "Oh my God, we got this cryptid now," you know. And this is going to be before too long. You're not going to be able to stop talking about this thing. Okay. But it is literally not a real cryptid. So all my Kentucky brothers and sisters down there, you're not dealing with something that's flesh and blood. You're dealing with something that is supernatural and is being manifested. Okay. It's like leaving the doorway open to a portal. Okay. And that's what this thing is doing. Okay. It's coming in and out, just like the effects of a Ouija board. Okay. The same thing. If you don't close the portal, if you don't close the Ouija board the right way, it's going to continue to come in from the supernatural realm. Okay. Which is a legitimate realm. Okay. Plain and simple. I don't care who wants to debate it with me. I've lived it. Okay. So the supernatural realm is a real realm. Okay. So I don't know. What do you think about this, Eric?
I think it's just like the Slender Man. It's all made up and it's a clickbait deal. And what it boils down to is an author wrote a very good story which convinced people that something existed, and now you have this. Which is a double-edged sword for an author, because that means you wrote a very good book, but at the same time, it's so good that people automatically jump on it and go, hey, this is real, folks. Hey, come on. No.
You know what makes me think this is likened unto almost? It's the same thing that happened back in the before. I think it was it before or after World War II? I can't remember the exact date. With H.G. Wells and the War of the Worlds radio broadcast.
Oh yeah.
You know, it reminds me of the same effect that radio broadcast had on the public back then, where they were literally getting ready to fight Martians, okay, thinking that, America was being invaded in the world, and to me, it's the same effect. It's almost like a mass delusional manifestation to where, enough people say that they've had something weird happen, so they have to, use the backs of their imagination kicks in, their whatever you want to call it, and basically, creates this being, like the Slender Man, okay, and then it automatically manifests itself. It's like believing in something. You get enough people saying something enough and repeating it enough, other people are going to believe it. That's why we have mass media. Mass media does the same damn thing to the public. They repeat it enough, and then parts of the public believe it 100% and don't want to take nobody else's word for it. Same principle. Plain and simple.
Yep. Yeah, I mean, it's amazing what people will do for clickbait, and that's what destroys true researchers, true investigators, is the fact you got so many people out there that's willing to lie or make something up just to get more clicks from followers and more subscribers, that they destroy the truth behind this stuff.
Roxanne, good to see you in the chat. Thank you for being here. Kyle, thank you. Carl, good to see you. Let me see who else we got in here. Genocide, good to see you. Bounty, good to see you. Joanne, Marty, good to see you. Let's see here. Ray, good to see you in here, buddy. Good to see you. Let's see. Gemini Moon, good to see you. Trisha, good to see you. Tanya, good to see you. I think that's mostly everybody right now. I don't see Urso. Urso probably slept in. Oh, Rhonda's in the house.
Nope, Urso's.
Oklahoma Nana, first one in the chat. Yep, there's Urso. All right. Anyways, I want to thank everybody for being here. Yeah, this is the most aggravating topic to talk about right now is people's fears and what they're doing. And I can't I can't seem to say it enough, Eric, that you're going to humanity has a way of manifesting things, okay? And I've said it time and time again, but nobody wants to listen, okay? I really truly believe that there is a certain percentage of people that say that they're in the cryptid field to really tear it apart. Surreal real estate. Good, good morning. I really do. I think that, as far as disinformation and as far as making things laughable, I think that these people that are saying this kind of stuff and bringing this stuff forward like this are the root of all evil for the cryptid community. Okay, they're going to tear it down from underneath us. They're conscripting supernatural beings with flesh and blood, and they need to stop. Okay, they really need to stop doing that. If you can't discern the difference between something supernatural and something physical, flesh and blood and bone, then you shouldn't be in the field.
Yep. My mindset on this, it's not so much that we're, and this is just how my brain works, but that we're manifesting new things. I think it's something demonic that's going, hey, these guys are fearing this. So I'm going to assume this because it's causing fear, so I can get what I want. So it's not like we're manifesting a new, supernatural entity. It's just we've made it because, well, that's what we're fearing. So demons are going to latch onto that fear.
Exactly. Now, the only conclusion that I can make as far as supernatural goes is this is just like what I described with the elemental, the tree elemental that looks like a tree, okay, that basically mimics people's voices or will whisper to them to lure them alone, and then basically that person will become missing, okay, and not be seen again. Now, this is the same setup. So I think they're taking bits and pieces from actual native legends and they're pulling it in and warping it into something that they want people to believe in that's flesh and blood. Val, good to see you. So, in my opinion, folks, the Kentucky Whisper Man only exists in a Fey legend, okay? A supernatural realm, okay? No more than any other imagination producing being, okay? Like the Slender Man, like Siren Head, and so many others, okay? So, Robin, good to see you. We need to, Girl with a Gong, good to see you. We need to literally classify this as unclassifiable because it's literally made up from imagination. Okay. This is not a flesh and blood cryptid. I hope to God that people realize that this is not a flesh and blood cryptid and don't continue this BS with this story. Okay. Plain and simple. All right. Supernatural wise, yes, this being does exist, but not flesh and blood. Okay. This is not a cryptid. This is a supernatural entity, plain and simple. And it can manifest itself through imagination, just like the demonic can and elementals can. Okay. Plain and simple. End of story,
Yep. I agree.
All right. Our next story. Sorry, guys, I'm having a hard time breathing. That's why I'm down on my coffee so much. My next thing that I wanted to go over was Mr. Robert Johnson. How many of you all know about Robert Johnson? The story goes that young Robert Johnson, longing for musical fame and fortune went to a specific crossroads, often described as the junction of Highway 61 and 49 in Clarksdale, Mississippi at midnight. Now, legend goes that you go to these crossroads right at midnight and you can make a deal with the devil for whatever you want. Okay. But there he's said to have met the devil or a similar figure like Papa Legba. Okay. Now, Papa Legba is like a demon. Okay. Considered a demon. Okay. Not really the devil. So, but Papa Legba basically took Mr. Johnson's guitar and he tuned it a specific way that when he played the guitar, he became famous and very rich, okay, and well known and popular, okay. But at the same time that you make that deal at the crossroads, you also are making a deal basically for a blood contract, okay. Now, blood contracts, I know from being what I was into, that blood contracts are a legitimate thing, okay. The music industry uses it all the time. Hollyweird uses it sometimes, okay, on some specific, projects that they're doing. So blood contracts are a real thing. Hell, the mafia used to use them, okay, blood contracts. That's why they call it omerta, the blood oath, These are all legitimate ways of collecting on a debt. And that debt is your soul, okay? That debt is said to be your soul and your essence, okay? And when they collect upon it, it's usually suddenly, okay? It's usually very sudden, okay? Now, Robert Johnson, he mysteriously passed away awful fast at the age of 27, which makes him part of that 27 club that we hear so much about, okay? Along with others out there, and I'll give you some names here. Let's see here. Okay, yeah, let's see. All right, where is it? I gotta find the list of names that I have here. Yeah, the age of 27, he died, along with others known such as the 27 Club, which included, all right, very famous ones. You got Brian Jones, Jimi Hendrix, Janis Joplin, Jim Morrison, and several others, okay, are part of the 27 Club, which basically meant that they were unalived at the age of 27, okay. Now, the significance that 27 has in the numerology department is I'm not altogether sure, but I do believe it is a significant number, okay. I do believe that the number 9 means that you're falling short of the perfect 10, okay. So that could have something to do with it. 2 plus 7 is 9, okay. But I know there's other symbolic meanings of the number 2, but I'm not going to get into all that. That's not my forte. I'll leave that to somebody else to do a podcast about. Hint, hint. But yeah, the whole deal with the Crossroads is that you can literally go there at midnight, okay, and make a deal with the devil for fame and fortune, okay. But what people don't realize is that when they're making that deal for fame and fortune, it's going to be a short-term deal. It's not going to be a long-term deal. You're not going to live to be 100 years old, okay. You'll be lucky to reach 27 like Robert Johnson made, okay, or Jim Morrison or Jimi Hendrix or Janis Joplin, Okay. Some of the most famous musicians and singers in the world on that list. Okay. There's several actors on that list too. So, is the Crossroads a real thing? That's my question to everybody in the chat and to you, Eric. Is the Crossroads a real thing? Does it actually exist? And can you make a deal with the devil at the Crossroads? That is my question.
I believe it's mentioned not only in the Bible but in a lot of ancient lore about the Crossroads. In fact, one of the oldest werewolf talked about in England talks about how this man went to the crossroads at midnight and made a deal with the devil to become a wolf. And it's so many cultures have this same thing. But if I remember correctly, it's even talked about in the Bible about going to crossroads to meet Lucifer to make deals.
Hmm.
So trying to get
All
caught up
right.
on the comments here.
Yeah,
But
I know. I'm
I mean, that's just from
trying to read the comments.
yeah, it's popping up on YouTube quick, but it's taking forever on yours. Well, for me, it's taking forever on your platform. There we go. Got hit with a bunch of them. Ursus, yes, because portals
Machete and Daryl.
open where energy line merge.
No, go ahead. That was just me coughing.
Ursa. Oh. Ursa said yes because portals open where energy line merge, let lines and man fade, focus energy. Roxanne says, look at all the rock groups in the 60s where one band member would give themselves to Satan. Hey, Machete.
Is the Crossroads a specific location, or can it be any crossroads? That's my question.
From my understanding, it could be any crossroad. From my understanding, it could be any crossroads. It has to be at midnight. It has to be at the stroke of midnight. The first gong.
Yeah. I agree with that 100%. Midnight is definitely the number to do it at. But my question would be that is it possible to do it at any crossroads? That means that you would more than likely have a potential energy source at each crossroad at midnight to open a portal. Because otherwise, how would you be speaking to Papa Legba or the devil to make a deal?
Well, you think about it. That could be part of the spell. And the spell is you have to, when you're crossing dimensions to make a deal, the best way to make a spell accurate is it's done at a crossroads where two roads intersect. They change. That could be the thesis or the basis behind it. I don't know. I could tell you from personal experiences that a lot of weird things happen at crossroads at night. I've had a lot of weird stuff happen to me, especially around midnight at crossroads. I don't know why. I can't tell you why. I'm still trying to figure it out myself. The best explanation I got is maybe that's part of the spell.
Well, I'm gonna tell you something. I'm gonna let everybody in on a little secret, okay? And keep this under your hat, everybody. Don't let this information get out, although it is on the internet right now. As soon as I say it, but when I was doing the Walker ceremonies and all the dark arts for the Native American black arts, I was using literally a signaling device, almost like a Ouija board, okay? And what it was two pieces of pinyon pine, which represents the human DNA. And I would lay it on ceremonial mound in an X shape, representing what? The crossroads.
Bro.
Okay. So, this whole idea and concept of opening up a supernatural portal at a crossroads is a very, very legitimate thing, folks, just so you know. Okay. So I wouldn't be going and hanging out at any crossroads at midnight calling Papa Legba to come give you a fame and fortune wish to be granted. Because when he comes to collect that debt, he's going to come prematurely. He's going to come when you least expect it. You're expecting to live a long time, to be famous and enjoy the wealth. That's not how these deals work, folks. Not at all. Okay. It's called a blood contract and a blood oath for a reason, for a specific reason, plain and simple.
Yeah, Daryl, that's a good point. I forgot about the blood offering. It has to be a dirt road. That's definitely possible. Yeah, it's I can see that. But you can still put blood even on a paved road. You can still put blood in the ground because there's dirt next to the edge of it.
Yeah. There is a place out in the Southwest along the Superstition Mountains that is said to be a crossroads where people are seeing a lot of the skinwalker type of activity. And it almost, it is a dirt road, but at the same time, like you said, I mean, it doesn't really matter. I don't think that if it's a dirt road or a paved road or a concrete road, as long as you can make the blood offering at midnight
Mm-hmm.
at a crossroads, any crossroads. Um, One thing that I have learned is it's like buying real estate. Location, location, location. It's everything, literally everything. So if you can find a crossroads at, say, a prominent ley line position, you're doing much better than a normal crossroads at midnight.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just going to put that out there. Okay. Just saying.
You get, riddle me this, folks. What is midnight known as? Let's see if anybody can get it. What is the other term for midnight? What is it called? I'll give you a hint. It's the blank hour. Yes, Roxanne. So
Roxanne got it.
stop and think about
And
that.
Urso. Yeah.
You know it. Yep. If yep, Urso good. Yep. Yep. Mary, good to see you. Yep. It's the witching hour. Now, how does that make, think about that when you're tying this legend of the crossroads together. When you make the deal with Lucifer at the crossroads, it's at midnight. Midnight's known as the witching hour. What are witchings tied to? They're tied to magic. The list goes on. So you can kind of see where this combination comes from. And we know that things are all done by spells. And I think that's part of the spell. The part of the spell has to be at a crossroads, which makes it easier to immerse two dimensions together to make this deal. Then you got the magic of the witching hour, which takes magic to draw it forth. I mean, the list goes on and on and on to why this is a very good possibility.
Yeah. And that's magic with a K, by the way, not a C. That's not the
Mm.
fluff, pretty bunny type of magic. That is the dark magic, the magic that can make things literally happen, um, good or bad. So yeah, that is something to be said. But when it comes to the crossroads, I really am a firm believer, though, if you can find one that is literally positioned on a main line, you will do a lot better with a major ley line crossroads than you will just a normal crossroads.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, I mean, so another thing just popped in my head I didn't think about when I was talking about what is also significant about midnight. What does midnight represent for us time wise? It is the end of the previous day's magic and the start of a new day's magic. End of a day, the start of a new. That's midnight. So it's almost like the power is stronger at midnight because it's a new magic.
It's fresh.
I mean, I
That's
could be
why.
wrong. Yep. Yep.
Yeah, and it's best to use fresh magic because you don't have to regenerate it as much, which takes more out of the person
Mm-hmm.
doing the ceremony. I know that firsthand. Um, but yeah, there's something to be said about it. That's why I always push it with everybody that you have to be careful because your words are going to have power. And there's certain things that you can do in your walk in your life, not knowing that you're doing it, to have this cause and effect in a harsh way on your life. Okay. And
Mm-hmm.
a lot of people go through it. Okay. So, you know, is it something that is legitimate? Yeah, I believe that the Crossroads ceremony is a legitimate requesting ceremony. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And if you're doing it right, you're going to find yourself doing it at a prominent crossroads where there is a significant ley line, okay, attached to the location. And I do believe that along that route there at that crossroads, specific crossroads, is the 33rd parallel.
Yep. Man, the 33rd's got a lot of weird crap on it.
Yep.
So yeah, it's oh sorry,
Sorry,
bud.
guys.
That came up on
I
me
got to
quick.
drink more coffee. I'm having a
um,
hard time talking, Eric, so you're going to have to take over.
yeah, no worries. I think so, and that's probably yeah. I think it's tied to a lot what I was talking about with the the new magic of the day. It's easier. I can see that, Roxanne. Uh, yeah. So I mean, it's oh, we lost William again. We lost him again. That's why this stuff is important and people don't understand. We always talk about how um, we have the power of life and death in our tongue. And every time we speak, we cast spells. This all plays into that. Um, maybe if you believe in the uh, believe it to be real, then you can make it real. That is possible, surreal. Yeah, when you put the particular power into it, maybe with some things for sure. I could see that. We don't. We definitely know that's possible, and that happens. Here he comes back in. I think that's number two so far. I think today's words are stagnant. It's the old languages. They erase that some history or erase the vocabulary energy to work better than the watered down. Like, yeah, yeah, I can see that or so. Um, that's number
I'm
two
getting
now,
hit
ain't it?
left and right here, guys. I'm getting kicked off this thing left and right. So I think I'm going to remain silent the rest of the podcast, man. This is getting ridiculous because it's not the internet.
Yeah.
Um, I'm watching the bars on the internet and it's full bars. So it's not running off of batteries. So something is definitely messing with it. Okay.
Wow.
And messing with my talk time. So plain and simple.
But so I mean, yeah, there's a lot of power, and we talk about this all the time. Yes, there's good magic and there's bad magic. I'll give you that. I'm not a big believer on good witches versus bad witches. I believe there's medicine people and there's dark magic, dark witches. That's kind of where my thoughts are. I know a lot of people believe there's white witches and black witches. I don't. I don't. That's a very modern term. Um, Especially with what I dealt with in my life. That's the reason why I don't believe that way. But what most people consider white witches is more your healers. Um, they work with nature like you're supposed to aid in things and not cause destruction. Where your actual witches, your dark witches, love to destroy. Um, I'm kind of old school that way. That's just kind of how I think of it, how I see it. That's just uh, my beliefs on that. This chat's flying, so it's awesome. I'm trying to keep up and talk at the same time. Uh,
Yeah.
but yeah, I mean, I know a lot of people believe in that, and I mean that's fine. That's your cup of tea. It's just not mine. But that's just kind of where I fall into on that because I mean, even Yahuwah talks about witches being evil and bad, and that's another reason why I kind of lean along that lines as well. But everything deals with magic. We all have a portion of magic within us. Uh, we all, at some degree, we either use it for good or we use it for bad, or we barely use it because we don't think about it. Uh, that's the truth. I mean, that's part of our gifts. And for me, I always strive to use the stuff for good. I've said it here hundreds of times. I know what happens when people use it for bad. I lived around it. I've seen it with my own eyes. That's why I'll never, 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 never partake in that. So, but at the
Yeah.
same
There's two
time, those use their
locations in
gifts.
Mississippi. There's two locations in Mississippi, by the way, that has specific crossroads that I've found. One is at Highway 61 and 49 in Clarksdale, Mississippi, and the other is at Highway
Hmm.
1 and Highway 8, which is in Rosedale, Mississippi. So I'd be curious to see what kind of ley lines are actually at those specific locations.
Yeah, I mean, because we know. So the ley lines actually follow the natural energies of the earth. The true power is in the energy of the earth. The true, well, this, for latent terms, the true power cables of earth is what the um, ley lines follow. So if you got a very high energy crossroad, we'll just say that, where they intersect, the power is going to be stronger there because it's inputting or it's outputting um, more magic. It's more power that way, so it's easier for the magic to tap into it. Um, and so I can see that being a stronger source. With places like that. So it'd be interesting to see where like you said, these popular crossroads intersect with that stuff. Because your ley line is basically your sight
Exactly.
from point A to point B. That's what a ley line is. You know, hey, this object's here and it's in line with this object over here. That's your ley line. Um, it just so happens a lot of ancient structures are were built on Pacific energy sources, and so they connect. I mean, they really do. Um, So, and our ancestors knew about these energies, the natural energies of Mother Earth. So they weren't dumb. They weren't dummified like we are now. This, knowing the energies of Mother Earth, how she breathed, how she worked, how she reproduced, how she took away, that was their life. Their whole life was revolved around what Mother Earth does. And they knew about these ancient magics. They knew about these ancient um, knowledges, and it was a big part of who they were. We have been taken away from that. Um, so that's why I liked ancient life myself. So with that being known, with their knowledge on that stuff, would make sense why I need to be here at this time, or I've got to build this here. I mean, look at the Great Pyramids of Giza; they're big energy conductors. You know, look at your obelisk. They're all put on these natural energy lines of Mother Earth for that purpose.
Right.
Energy. What does magic need? Magic needs energy. We need energy. Everything needs energy. Plants need it. Everything.
Exactly.
Everything needs it. So, I mean, it's just a little nugget of some information for everybody to chew on. That's a McFluffy nugget for you to chew on, to kind of put into your research repertoire. I'm trying to be fancy here.
I'm just watching the chat, guys. Sorry,
Yeah, it's fine.
I'm kind of dozing off watching the chat. So, having some difficulty catching my breath. So, I don't know how long I'm
Mm,
going to be able to do this today. But, often the subject is, trying to discern the difference between supernatural and actual cryptid type of activity. And this Crossroads legend actually says a lot. It speaks volumes when you talk about
mm,
manifestation, and making a contract or a supernatural contract, a blood contract, with a supernatural being. Okay, um, as compared to a flesh and blood. So when you deal with, like, say, when you're dealing with the goat man, okay, the Popelik monster, okay, is a good example of that. I did a podcast about a year ago, about a gentleman that was coming home from work at about 11 o'clock at night on a highway coming from West Virginia into Virginia, and how a goat man figure appeared running alongside of his vehicle at 35 miles an hour out of a mist. Okay. And it tried to open up the passenger side door of his vehicle. Okay. Now, this guy had just gotten off work. So, yeah, granted, he might have been tired and all that. But the fact of the matter is, he had seen something manifest itself supernaturally and tried to physically interact with him. And it's getting to the point where we're having a lot of these instances where the supernatural is interacting a lot with humanity. At the same
mm,
time, cryptids are. Okay. And I think the two are getting kind of confused, a lot of the time. So, it's
mm-hmm,
like I've always said, that when you see, red eyes, that you're dealing with something supernatural. Okay. Plain and simple. When you're dealing with normal eye shine, and what I mean normal, like deer, coyote, bear, moose, elk, whatever you want to call wildlife out there, you're dealing with a yellow or a green eye shine. You're dealing with a normal wildlife, flesh and blood wildlife. Okay. Anything deviant of that is going to be something on the lines of supernatural, especially if it's self illuminated. Okay. And I'm not talking just normal eye shine, I'm talking self illuminated. Okay. Like a
Mm-hmm.
flashlight. Okay. So, and we see that a lot with reports of the Mothman. That's a big one. Okay. Everybody says,
Mm-hmm.
oh, but the Mothman, it's a cryptid creature and da da da. No, the Mothman is not a cryptid creature. It is classified as supernatural, okay, because its makeup is 100% supernatural. It comes and goes out of this dimension as much as it wants because it has almost an angelic, demonic type of a essence about it, which means it can come and go through this dimension and probably multiple other dimensions as much as it wants. Okay. So,
It started again. My speaker.
oh, great.
It just
Yep.
started doing it again.
Yep. As soon as we get into the supernatural subject, we start having problems. So then
Mm-hmm.
again, I ask,
Well,
there's my proof right there. You know what I mean? Literally, that is my proof. You know, the supernatural realm is a real thing, folks. And the sooner people wake up to the fact that they can manifest evil out of that from their own fears or their own imagination of hearing something in the dark and thinking automatically that it's a monster, they're going to manifest that monster. I'm telling you,
mm-hmm.
it's going to happen.
You guys consider this. Um, there's different ways with dealing with the paranormal, supernatural, and the cryptid. Okay, one of the easiest ones to get rid of is paranormal. Two main things you need for paranormal: natural sea salt and wrought iron, and then a good smudging. Okay, that's one of the paranormal is one of the easiest to get rid of. Then you go into the supernatural. Now you need good natural sea salt and wrought iron, which is supernatural too. But with supernatural takes so 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 much more involved to getting rid of it. Supernatural entities are extremely hard to get rid of. Supernatural entities can unalive you too. So you got to put that in consideration. You can't just go like you can with cryptids and have a big caliber round to get rid of an cryptid or explosives or traps or any of this other stuff. We don't ever consider that because we think two dimensionally. Hey, this is what I know, so this is what I'm going to use, and that's not true. You know, you have to consider this. They're supernatural entities. The key word super. They're supernatural entities for a reason. Them things are extremely powerful. You got to have certain spells. You got to have the backing of Yahuwah, uh, along with the sea salt, the wrought iron. You got to have certain herbs. You got to have certain. I mean, there's certain processes you got to do to get rid of these supernatural entities. So we have to put this into consideration. That kind of gives you a taste of how powerful these things are and why you should not be messing with them at all because it is
Exactly.
I can sit there and chase one off, yes, but without properly getting rid of it, it's going to return. Unlike paranormal, once you get rid of them, unless you bring them back in yourself, they're gone. Supernatural, you can run them off for a little bit, they're going to return. So you have to. There's
Well,
different techniques, different things involved.
and that's the thing when it comes to a lot of the cases of people saying, "Oh, just go ahead and smudge your home. It'll get rid of the problem."
Mhm.
That is a band-aid. Okay. Smudging
Mhm.
is not a permanent thing. Okay. Smudging is a band-aid. It merely temporarily cleanses the area of negative. That's all it does. It doesn't block
Mhm.
it. It doesn't make it go away permanently. It just cleanses it for a specific point in time, whether it's, usually typically it's about a week, okay, in duration. But that energy can come back,
Mm-hmm.
especially especially if you leave the door open. Okay. If you leave the
Yep.
door open, you give them any reason to come back into your life. Okay. You're going to literally have it reoccur. Okay. Um, Thought process can do that. Thoughts of
Yep.
suicide can do that. Drug use can do that. Okay. Anger issues can do that. Bipolar issues can do that. Okay. These are all trigger mechanisms that these deities, these entities will use to influence to get into your life. Okay. And a lot of people, today, especially the way the world is, that's why we're seeing a lot of this activity creeping up. Okay. It's
Mm-hmm.
slowly increasing. Okay. Here lately, it's been increasing exponentially. Okay. So, there's a lot to be said about what goes on up here. And last night, I tried to tell you all that when you live this life, we are not meant to live this life thinking through this. Okay. Not
Mm-hmm.
through our brain. Our brain is what holds us to this simulation. Okay. Our brain is what holds us believing in what we're seeing. Okay. And what we're hearing. Okay. Our brain is literally the mechanism that keeps us locked within this repeated cycle. Okay. Of a simulation. All right. What we need to live this life by is the same thing that Jesus Christ told us to do, and that is with our heart. Our heart is our energy center, not our brain. Our heart is our center. Our heart has a heart chakra for a reason. It's the center. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
The sooner humanity realizes that they need to think with their heart and not their brain, the less wars you're going to have, the less famine you're going to have, the less disease you're going to have, the less all that, all that will change if you use your heart
Mm-hmm.
and not your brain.
Yeah. You know, like the thing is, if you're going to properly protect your home from paranormal, supernatural, you need to first bring a holy man in, whichever Christian, native, whichever it is. The seers from the Norse, ways, how whatever your holy man or holy woman is, bring them in, have them do a blessing, smudge your home. Once you get your home cleared, then you put that ring of sea salt, natural sea salt around your home. Put wrought iron in the corners of your home. And then you go out to your property, repeat the process. You got to bless the property, smudge the property. Once you do that, then you put that ring of sea salt around your property. Put that wrought iron on the four corners of your property. That is how you build a proper barrier to protect your home. And then on top of that, you got certain um, symbols, certain symbols for, especially this is dealing with supernatural here. And this is where a lot of it gets away from the paranormal side and more into supernatural. Once you do all that, if you're trying to protect yourself from your supernatural entities, there's certain symbols you got to have. Each symbol has a magic power to it. Um, you have to consider that. Man, that chat. Every time I go to click, the chat moves. Um, so that is something you got to consider too, and that's why I mean it's totally different between those. So, but if you get the wrong stuff or you do the wrong process, instead of keeping it out, you can trap it in. That's why it's very important to have a holy person bless your home, then you smudge it. And then you put that barrier up because you can actually put a barrier up and trap whatever it is inside your home. And the whole key of this is to keep it out of your home. So, and a lot of people don't understand that. It's like, oh, well, I heard this, so this is what I'm going to do, and they go like, man, it's gotten worse. It's angry. It's gotten violent. Well, yeah, you trapped it. You didn't do the correct steps, the correct
Right.
process, the correct
Um,
spell casting.
exactly, exactly. And there's a lot to be said. I mean, you're allowed your own opinions and stuff. Trust me.
Mhm.
You're allowed your own opinions. Okay. Like
Yep.
if you think for one instance that the head and the heart are used together, that's fine. That's your
Mm-hmm.
belief. But as far as my teachings go, the brain has nothing to do with it. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
It's the heart. The heart is your center. Okay. It's the same
Yep.
thing that a lot of the old text and tablets talk about is the
Yep.
heart energy. Okay. Being
Mm-hmm.
your essence, it's your energy. It's the core to your energy around your body. Okay, is your heart.
Recentering yourself.
Exactly. And of course, the more you use your heart, the stronger your energy is going to be. Okay. The more you
Mm-hmm.
use your brain, the less your energy is going to be because you're trying to rationalize things through the brain. Whereas
Mm-hmm.
the heart's not going to rationalize it. The heart's going to take that raw, natural emotion and it's going to transfer it into energy.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. The brain
Mm-hmm.
doesn't do that. The brain analyzes it. It takes it and pieces it apart until it analyzes it to death and it breaks it down energy wise. Okay. That's the difference.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So that is the difference.
Yeah. And a lot of times when people are talking about using your head, um, you have to consider this too. They're not talking about it in the way that William described. They're talking about it as know your knowledge, know how things work, know the proper steps. That's when you hear people talking about that. I think that's probably one of the biggest misconceptions when it comes to that. It's because the people hear it but only take certain parts away from it, and that's where a big misunderstanding comes from on a lot of that. So, I mean, I could be wrong. That's just how I see it. Um, is that when they say, "Oh, you gotta use your head and fix your heart," when they're saying use your head is know the knowledge of what it takes to be able to do what it is you got to do. I could be wrong. So that's just my mindset. I'm trying to this chat's flying,
That
so I'm trying
that's
to get caught. Hey,
yeah,
yeah. See,
yeah.
and
But Chet, you hit that on the nail. Buchetti is right. It does feel often when we struggle spiritually, that's how we feel.
mm-hmm,
We always feel like we're in a tug of war between our brain and our heart. Okay. So, especially the way
yeah,
things are today. Okay. So, as frustrated as I get periodically, I don't want to give up on humanity, but at the same
mm-hmm.
time, I think humanity has caused its own fortune. Okay. Its own fate. I really do. And, you
Take it
know,
easy, Tony.
we can pray about it individually. We can meditate on it individually. We can try to manifest good
Mm-hmm.
things out of it individually. But unless humanity comes together as one, God bless it.
There's strength and
Sorry, I had
power
a
in numbers. You're all good. There's strength and power in numbers,
no.
folks.
I just had a phone call come through about a cryptid investigation. So,
Oh,
anyways, go ahead, continue. I'm gonna go silent for about 5 minutes.
yeah. There's strength and power in numbers. Uh, Yahuwah says, "Where two or more gather, I am there." I mean, that's a good sign. That's a good good thing to remember when it comes to strength in numbers, power in numbers. You can do things on your own. So you guys have heard me say this many times. When I'm cleansing a house of a paranormal entity, I always tell you it's a lot stronger if the owners are there with me because they're the ones that hold the true power of that home. I could do it by myself, but it takes longer. I'm weaker by myself. Plus, that's not my home, so I don't hold the power of it. And that's kind of falls in lines with what I'm talking about here. There's strength and power in numbers. We should all come together and uh, you're all good, Machete. There's always that falls into that place there. So when we all come together, we band together under unity. That is that is where the true power comes from. That is where the true strength comes from. Is that so? When everybody can come together in one mindset and one belief and for one purpose, the magic created from that gathering is leaps and bounds more powerful than if you're trying to do it by yourself. Um, very press in, always in, yeah, Yeshua's name and left it. Yeah, and sometimes Carl, it can take several treatments to get rid, especially supernatural. More so supernatural. It can take several repeat
I'll
processes
talk to you later.
to get it out, depending on how powerful they are. So, yeah, machete.
All right. Anyways, that's a get help do down there in South Carolina. So,
Oh,
any of you cryptid investigators in South Carolina want to do a Nighthawk a favor, get a hold of Steve Marzinski and deal with the situation he's got going
mhm.
on, because not only does he have cryptid going on down there, but he has supernatural going on down there at the same time.
Uh-oh. William froze up again for the third time. We'll see if he comes back in. Oh, yep. I think there you are. Now you're moving. You're back. Or maybe not. Nope. He moved.
All right.
There you are.
And this is not conducive. This is not be or controlling too much right now. Um, I'm going to go ahead and call it a day for this show.
Mm-hmm.
We crossed. If you can, hammer that like button, share this out, subscribe to the channel. Those are the three main things I ask everybody to do, because they're the three main things that help the most. And definitely comment. You guys in the chat are always awesome. I want to thank everybody in the chat, okay, for being here and doing everything that you do. Thank you to the moderators for being here, and thank you. I don't know if I can't schedule a show for tomorrow morning, we probably won't have one. Okay, depending on how I do to schedule the show. Okay, so we may not have a show in the morning on Sunday. Okay, it's up in the air. All right, so I'll let everybody know in the morning. I'll post it on Facebook that being said, at 11 p.m. For Into the Red Rabbit Hole, and we'll go with that. And Eric, you want to let everybody know what you got going on this afternoon, and then we're going to cut out of here because this is getting crazy, folks, with the electronics.
Yep. Okay. Yeah. So actually, when we get off of here, I've got to go to the historical part of town where I'm writing that Western of mine, Cody Barrett, The Start of a Legend, because I try to write my books period based, especially on my historical fictions, but even the modern ones too. Anything I write about in my books, 9 times out of 10, you can find that place. You can look it up and find it. The restaurants I talk about in my modern books, lands from my modern books, ancient times too. You can look it up and you can find it. I tried to keep everything as accurate and as true as possible. Do I have to change a few things up for certain reasons? Yes, I actually do. Like a lot of times when I write about a town or I write about a county, I'll change it to the original because of that purpose right there. So I'm actually going to the historical part of town today to see the historical society to get period-based information for 1864 in that time. So I'll be doing that as soon as I get off here. Tonight we got campfire chats with Eric and guest. I'm trying to figure out how to get a hold of Bigfoot Dwarf to see if I can get him to come on tomorrow. If I can, we're going to do a show about Bigfoot again because I haven't done one of those in a while. So that's pretty much what I got going on for me. I've been running nonstop with research, historical research all weekend. So I mean, I've just been busy. Okay, good. I thought I lost you again for a second.
Freeze up and we're gonna go ahead. We're gonna go ahead and end it because it's getting really bad with the feed. We're only hearing bits and pieces of conversation going on, at least on my end. So we're gonna call it a day for this, and we'll see everybody hopefully tomorrow morning. If I can't get the guests to come on tomorrow morning, then we'll just do it for next weekend, okay? But definitely Friday night, and I might even do a music thing sometime during the week too. Paranormal music hour, okay? So look for those, and everybody question everything, please. You have that right. And go to the ECBRO event in Wires Cave, Virginia today and tomorrow. Go out, support them at their Bigfoot event. Lots of vendors, some food vendors, some Renaissance stuff going on. Yeah, go support them. And have a great rest of your day. Take care.
In the dead of night, I hear them whisper. Shadows dance on walls, growing crisper. Echoes of the past, they start to rise. Monsters lurking deep beneath the skies. Fear grips my heart. I can't escape. Bump in the night, where the fears collide. Monsters awaken, nowhere to hide. Shadows are calling, they beckoning near. In the dance of the dark, I feel no fear. Moonlight reveals the horrors unseen. Whispers of darkness haunting my dream. figures that twist in the corners of sight. I shiver alone in the grip of the night. Creatures